it. They both asked for this, but they are both very busy, I guess. But we have Miss Christie here, who's going to talk about it all. But I do want to talk about something first, foremost, before we get into that. Some of the stuff that I've been struggling with a little bit. I spoke with a lady last night. She's been struggling a lot with suicide stuff in her family. She has just lost a fourth person to suicide, which is her brother, suicide. I talked to her for a long time last night. Talked about different stuff and talked about the group we have here. And of course, she don't look like she's ready for it, but I wanted her to know that we have the group here. And I mean, she went through detail how she lost her cousin and two cousins actually. But when I got around to it, it was like I approached her and told her about the Wednesday group and stuff, and she's like, no, I'm never going to be able to talk about it and stuff. And that's the part that I struggle with a lot, is because I understand that a lot of people lose people to suicide, but people need to understand that if you don't talk about it, it's not going to get any better. Hiding it and just forgetting it, that's not going to fix anything. And I'm not saying I can fix it, but I can tell you that if you talk about it, it's going to make it a little better. So, yeah, I was a little frustrated last night, but I was really there for her last night. She was a sweet lady. A lot of trouble in that family. I mean, she said none of that family would come here. I mean, if you guys got any ideas, please bring them to me, because I'm not exactly sure how to approach some of this stuff. You know, you don't want to push them because you're going to push them away. So. But I think I handled it rather well last night. I listened to everything she had to say. And I feel really bad for her. Well, she took my number and all this stuff, and hopefully she gets back to me. She wouldn't give me her number. That's what made me nervous. I asked for her number so I could just at least check up on her in a week or two and make sure she's all right. She said she'd call me, so. Yeah, I get to talk to a lot of people that lose people to suicide. It's tough, but it seems like it makes me stronger. And I don't want to feed off other people, but I think it makes me stronger because I talk about it. It's not that I hear people suffering, it's that I know that if I talk about it, I feel better. So I just need to get that out there, that people need to talk about this stuff a lot. On a good note, those of you that were here for the Walk for Life, we raised more money this year than we did the 4 years before. We had 3 times the amount of people we've ever had here before. So we are, and we had a cheerleading squad the entire time. Yeah,
Good job, Mike. That was good. Turned out good.
Thanks. I'm just glad the word's finally getting out there and we're starting to get a lot of people. It's awesome. The police finally cooperated with us and got all them guys in line. Yeah, that helped out a little bit too. So, yeah, I just want to thank everybody that was part of that. It was pretty awesome. Almost cried talking one day, but I didn't. It was close. Amazing what's happened in the 5 years since we started it. So. But yeah, this 211. I'm glad we got it in this town. I'm sure it's used by many. When I was struggling, I had no idea that it even existed. How long's 211 been around?
Since Nightingale since 1975.
Yeah.
So it started back with volunteers, so it's been evolving. Probably the last 15 to 20 years is when United Way, don't quote me on that date exactly, but it's been maybe 10, 15 years after that United Way has partnered with First Call and made it more of a nationwide resource.
Yeah, I definitely wish I would have known about that stuff back then. Thought I had to have all the answers on my own.
I got a question. Our daughter's been staying in Hibbing a lot, or my wife's daughter. I sound like there was a 15-year-old that just did suicide over the weekend or very recently. And we had some papers that we sent to her that we made copies off of so she can show the parents. It sounds like it's rather new. So, let's give it to the person and give it to the parents.
She knows about all the services in this town.
Whatever I've had from you.
Okay.
And they got my number, so I'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm willing to talk to anybody if they need me to. Everybody knows my track record. I definitely am no stranger to suicide myself, but I honestly have to believe in myself, and I believe in the last couple of years I've gotten stronger than I've been in a very long time. So, a lot of it's the people in this building. A lot of it's the wife that I got that don't put up with my shit, so. But, yeah, she's something special. But you guys came to listen to Christy, not me, so. Miss Christy from 211.
Okay, and like Mike said, I obviously am from First Call 211. We're gonna lead, I can go into the whole array of different services that we offer, but 988 and suicide prevention line is probably the biggest, most recent topic. And it's something that's got our offices in quite a frenzy. We get a lot of callers, parents and family members of those loved ones that are feeling suicidal or have had a success attempt. But we get a lot of questions in regards to how do we talk to someone that's feeling suicidal? And what we try to tell our callers is you can't ever try to reason with an individual that is feeling suicidal, because to them at that moment or that length of time, they're at their worst and they see no way out. So what we really encourage everybody to do is to validate the feelings that they're saying and explain to them that we believe that, and basically ask them how we can help. And a lot of times they don't have the answer because they don't know. So then that allows you a doorway to be more of a support role and non-judgmental to the individual that's suffering, because you won't be able to tell that individual that's suicidal or feeling that way, that they're wrong to feel that way, or that they should be feeling this way because they have so much to live for. Because again, they're in a state of mind where they don't feel that there's any hope. So your goal is to validate their feelings, acknowledge them, make sure that they're heard. And the biggest thing is to ask them, how can you help? And if they don't know, then that, like I said, gives you that doorway to kind of come up with ideas of how to. You know, a lot of times it's okay, can we get you into some therapy? You know, that's usually the first question and suggestion. And sometimes, like your friend had said, they aren't ready to talk about it. So it's just more of letting them know that you support them, letting them know that you're gonna allow them to feel the feelings that they're feeling, and not take them to the hospital, and you know, demand that they get fixed. Another key thing is to reach out to them, if it's a long distance, or if it's your child, whichever, every day just check in. Because like Mike said, speaking about it takes the power away from it. All of us know that if we keep our thoughts within ourselves, it gives them power and it makes them grow. So what we try to do is normalize the word suicide, because the more it's talked about, the less powerful it can be. And if they know that they have a space in an individual where they can share how they're feeling, and that individual isn't going to go into hyperactive, oh my God, we gotta get you help right now, allows them to process what they're feeling. And it's a slow process. You know, they need to know that when they're feeling dark, that they can reach out to you and you're not gonna freak out and say, you can't do this, or how the, you know, we don't ever talk about how it would affect us if they were to end their life, because again, that doesn't, they have no reason, that's not going to help them. They're just gonna then feel judged, and they're gonna feel, well, I can't cause my mom or my loved one that stress or concern, so they're gonna keep it inside. So the goal is to normalize it, to allow them to know that they're not alone, that, you know, to have those thoughts. It's very common for people to have the thoughts of suicide. The key thing is what we do with those thoughts. You know, so again, the key thing is to normalize that. And I think that's what the whole goal is with this new 988 program that they've started out. It's a coalition to normalize suicide. Again, purposes, if we talk about it, it takes the power out. They've done a whole bunch of restructuring, and their goal is to offer more services and available means to be able to talk about these things. So First Call has been honored to be included as the main for the state of Minnesota. We are the complete state of Minnesota backup for National Suicide Prevention. We have proven at First Call over the years of partnering with NSPL to be, they rate us on a success rate of answer calls, you know, a percentage. And we've been able to prove with our numbers that we have the staff and the ability to reach above 90% of answer rate. So with that, and with the new funding of the program itself, we have become the state of Minnesota's complete backup. So we right now answer for 47 of the 87 counties. So depending on your area code, and this is where it gets tricky. A person who used to live in Minnesota and then moved away to California, if they have an area code that falls in our area, whether it's 507, 218, 320, 952, National Suicide Prevention, their hub, as soon as they call or dial 988, they get directed to the hub that answers. So it's tricky when we answer a call for someone who's suicidal and needing resources, and they have relocated or they're gone to college and they're in a different state. So that's been kind of one of the trickier things. But the main thing is, I feel like I'm getting a little off track, but our goal is that no calls get missed. So we've got 3 other divisions that the state is broken up to, and when their call centers aren't able to answer a call, it gets brought back to us. So it's caused a lot of growing pains, but good growing pains. But we've seen an influx of calls with the advertising that's going on. And it's hard, because some of them, you know, are just wanting to know how to help an individual, but then there's other ones where it's extremely hard. We can't get the individuals to disclose where they're located. So we've been able to work with partnership through the local police department, and I know that Cree, if she were here, she could still better explain this, but she has been working directly with Itasca County to be able to have the resources and the ability to locate an individual that is actively suicidal. The scary part and the tricky part nowadays, unfortunately, is it's not against the law to commit suicide. So when a loved one calls in and they're like, so, you know, he called and he's gonna say that you need to do something. Legally, we can't do anything unless they're an individual with a weapon or there are children involved. Then they're considered to be an intimate risk to others. If they're driving in their car and they say they're gonna drive off a bridge, well, that's a different thing too, because they're putting others at risk. The hardest thing to wrap our heads around is that it's not against the law to end your life. And that's probably one of the hardest things that we have to deal with when speaking to loved ones that are concerned about their loved ones. Because we're here to help, but we can only help if they're willing to get help. So our goal is to be there for when they're ready, like your friend that you mentioned, you know, to reach out when they do. Our crisis line workers, our goal is to listen to them, help verbally process, try to do some cognitive reframing, forward thinking, that sort of thing. And our ultimate goal, especially through the suicide line, is to get them to accept the help, and then we have the ability with those 47 counties that we partner with to get them directed immediately with mobile crisis individuals in their area. So, it's a great partnership. It's, I hope over time, it's going to not be such high urgency calls and be in terms of people are just feeling the way that they're feeling and they just need to verbally process that. National Suicide Prevention 988 program also has implemented a texting and chat. So individuals that don't maybe want to verbalize it, but they'll chat about it, and that seems to be the norm thing. You know, don't have the courage to talk about something, we're gonna text it. So, Itasca County, our office there is the incubator hub, the main hub, to where we will be fielding all those text messages too. So that's another exciting little thing. We have new employees that have been trained, and they communicate on a daily with individuals that are feeling the way that feeling suicidal, and so they're able to communicate through text. I have not had that training, nor have I been able to kind of oversee what they do, but it's pretty, I mean, it's pretty interesting, and Cree gets pretty excited. So again, I wish Cree was here because she's got that more information. Another thing that first called us, you know, with the National Suicide Prevention Line, we'll just work our way from the mental health crisis side. So not only do we answer for the 47 counties immediately for national suicide assistance, we also handle mental health crisis lines too for the 47 counties. Those 47 counties, we act as their mental health crisis line triage. So again, we're doing the same thing. People are feeling not necessarily just suicidal, sometimes have mental illnesses, they're in a manic state, that sort of thing. We're trained individuals, crisis line specialists that can help de-escalate, can help the individual, again, verbally process things, make some action plans, make some safety plans, and again, if they need it, we are able to direct them with mobile crisis in their immediate area. And mobile crisis, as we refer to it here in Itasca County, is called Crisis Response Team. That is something that I know First Call also is very proud of, their crisis response team. The goal of the crisis response team members are to keep the individuals out of the hospital setting. We're able to dispatch our crisis response teams to meet with individuals, to do mental health assessments, to follow up with daily phone calls over a short time to just check in with them. We have the ability to get them sometimes fast-tracked into some therapy services, because a lot of times, if any of you know, if somebody needs a therapist, it's a 6-month waiting list. So they have the ability with some other partners, therapists, local therapists that they've been able to work with to kind of get some interim therapy in place, and hopefully eventually continue it with that facility and or get them to a different one. They help also with stabilization services, and that's crisis bed stabilization. And they don't deal just with mental health, they will deal with chemical dependency side of things, you know, with getting them safe. We have our Relief Healing Center, which is a 10-day crisis stay, short term, but then we also, our crisis response teams have the access to all the bed finders throughout the state of Minnesota. Through our crisis response team, they have branched and started the first ever veterans response crisis team. And that's something that's super exciting. It's veterans helping other veterans. And it's been a great success in the sense that they're able to make a relationship with that veteran, because with being a veteran comes a lot of pride, a lot of stoicness, to show that any weakness is not something that they've been trained to do, and nobody can understand the experiences that they've gone through. I couldn't, if I'm not a veteran. So again, it's another way to try to make that connection and build that relationship with the individual that's in crisis. Veterans, CRT also have a great relationship with the local VSO office. They are aware of additional resources and funding that maybe somebody calling VA isn't asking the right questions and they don't know. So they kind of help with that advocacy side and kind of see that through. So we do that for Itasca County, and then, like I said, our neighboring counties. Our goal is if we transfer them, is that they are receiving the same amount of care with their county's crisis team. It's nice to be able to help our immediate county because we're able to see the success rates. We're able to, in that regards. But it's kind of high stressful. Some days are worse than others, obviously. It's been crazy lately. The other options things that we do is we have a transportation program. So that is if, let's say, somebody utilizes our services, or if they're at the hospital and they need to be brought to a behavioral place, or maybe they need to be brought to detox. They then will be contacting us and we are able to provide them with that. We've also partnered with the county in regards with youth, with law enforcement. It's a protected transport, not in the sense of a cop car, but in the sense that if they're being transported, a lot of times people at the last minute get scared and they back out and they don't want to go. But they're in a vehicle that's safe and secure, so they can safely get from point A to point B. The other thing that we offer, that we partnered with through the county, is we have a recovery support team, and that is individuals that are deemed, I shouldn't say deemed, that the county has appointed or referred to our services for recovery support purposes. So not everybody can be part of the recovery support team. They have to be referred to by either a probation officer, by a judge, that sort of thing. So that they then offer that extra support and help getting individuals to meetings, help get them making, setting up a goal plan, seeing through kind of a lot what a peer recovery support individual does. So again, it's that offering additional support to those as they need. Yeah?
These services that you're talking about, does only the CRT team know about them, or anybody that answers 211's phones? Because I've called and asked about mobile transport before, they didn't know what I was talking about.
So our office is recently, because of our restructuring and everything, the protected transport is available, but it's not available to the general public. So you yourself couldn't call.
As a provider.
You're a provider, okay. So, it depends, we have a lot of new employees, so I'm sorry if that's the case. And they don't necessarily know because there's a team that handles the protected transport, so a lot of times they would then have to ask their superior, does this fall under our guidelines?
But just like in general, all of the services, like, cause I know that there's some people that answer the phone for resources only.
Yeah.
But then they don't seem to know what I'm talking about when I'm asking for certain things that I know you guys have. But I understand that you're training a bunch of people.
Yep, so ideally, yes, they are going to know of all of that. Whether or not they'll have to transfer you off to an individual that can't handle that, then yes, but yes, they should, and I apologize that.
No, I know that, it's okay. I mean, like I said, I know you hired and are training.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of people.
Yeah, and there's a lot for us not to get into, for us employees that we can train on, but a lot of things are a case-by-case scenario, because there's not a book. So, 90% of the time, and especially like you said, you knew we offered the services, the individual on the other hand did not, so I apologize for that. So for that,
Just call and ask for Christie.
well, you could, or you could ask for a mental health crisis line specialist.
Okay.
That would probably be your
That's-
best.
Thank you,
Yes,
that's helpful,
yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, the 211s, so initially the 211s, and that's where it gets tricky for us here in Itasca County, Grand Rapids, is all of our calls come in on our 211 line. Everything else comes in a designated line. So your entry point of conversation is going to be with a 211er. So, and they handle, so then that goes into our resources and referrals. So we give people that call, they just need a phone number looked up, you know? And it's sweet because they become frequent callers, you know? But we also take the time then to be like, are you doing okay? Do you have food? That sort of thing, because a lot of times they're elderly and they just, they don't necessarily identify what they are needing of. But then we also have information in regards to all the programs, for sharing funds, for, somebody that needing help with rent or a deposit, that sort of thing, that we can resource out, give them the Itasca, the Salvation Army, that sort of thing. And then they also, with the 2 ones, and I do apologize. So they handle all those resources and referrals. There is always some protocols that go with that, where you have to try other programs before we can do the other. But then there is also the point of entry for housing. So we do a lot of coordinated entries, and that's a big thing. But of course, it's been reminded to us that they have to be 2 weeks before, like if someone's in a facility, whether it's a behavioral facility, whether it's a treatment facility, and they know that they're going to need housing, they can't go to the SPDAT appointment until they are 2 weeks before homelessness. We work hand in hand with the Grace House, so we have the tent program for those that are homeless if the Grace House is not, or if they're fully occupied. But in the winter months, we do have access to the Salvation Army hotel voucher. So that is, an individual that is homeless, has found themselves stuck here. We have the ability to get them in a hotel stay, depending on where it is that they need to go to. If they don't have transportation, sometimes we can get them a bus ticket home. So we have those types of resources available as well. We also have pamphlets regarding felony friendly resources. That's for housing, that's for legal aid, that sort of thing. We also are trained in our emergency preparedness, and we've partnered with the Sheriff's Department there too, so we have a protocol. So a lot like when COVID hit, we were knowledged on all the changes as they needed in terms of what precautions and so forth. Thank goodness that was before my time, because from what I hear, nobody went home. Some of the other things we do complete the sharing fund application, like I had mentioned before. We also have, I would say over 50% of our employees are MNsure navigators. So if you are needing insurance, if you have a client that needs insurance application filled out, we're able to do that over the phone and or in person. Then we can also check for their status of their application as well. We have the notary. I think everybody, but maybe 3 of our employees are all notaries. So if you need anything notarized, it's a free service that we offer that's available to anybody. Let's see here, transportation. We also started a new thing where we partnered with the Itasca County DOC, to where we do a pre-trial. We handle their pre-trial UAs. And again, that is our goal and our partnership and our purpose is to ensure that we are reaching as many individuals of this county and making sure that they have the resources that they need. Through our services, people are able to not only get insurance, they're able to get in crisis bed stabilization, they're able to get assessments of any sort. And so their goal is to try to be the one-stop place for any possible need that may arise. I can guarantee you we don't have the answers to everything, but I'm proud to say I think with the collaborative efforts of those that work for us and contract through us, we are able to find the answer and or at least lead you in the direction that you need to. So, is there anything else?
Just wondering, with such a broad range of services provided and like a call center for mental health, substance use, 211 resources, and I've used the service and I also direct people to it, but But how do you train for that, now taking on more counties? Like, how big is the call center and how do you train them?
So we have, through DHS, we are required to do training. So there's a lot of computer trainings. All of us have gone to assist suicide trainings. That's a 2-day program. We have to stay up on our CEUs as far as for our certifications. MNsure is a lot of, everything's digital, so we do a lot of training there. As far as how to train with our interactions with our callers, that's a hard one. I mean, we get taught motivational interviewing, we get taught, all the things that DHS is our requirement. But every call is so different.
Right.
There's not one thing that there's no way that we can. So it's a case by case scenario. So a new employee probably goes through a 3-month kind of training process where they finally feel that, okay, I can take whatever call may come through there. Protocols change on a
Sure.
continuous,
Yeah, right.
but it's a lot of ever-changing knowledge that's thrown at you.
Yeah.
A lot of our staff have their own personal experience and struggles within their own life. And so that kind of helps build that compassion and that rapport with the caller, and kind of gives them an idea of what the individual may be looking for. But there is no textbook training.
How many people is it now?
I would say probably, don't quote me because I know that they've hired some new ones here recently, but just about 50 probably between the call center and the texting.
Yeah.
So, and that might be give or take 5 or so.
Sure.
But we are staffed 24 hours a day. So during the daytime, our goal is to have 5 crisis line, 1 2-on-1 employee, and then we have 3 to 4 texter for MSPL employees as well. Evenings, we up that up because after business hours, if we shall say, our county coverage changes and increases. We have a lot of after-hour social services. We have a lot of after-hour crisis lines that come in after the regular business day. So we staff at least 7 to 8 for the crisis lines, and then the texting and so forth is still the same at 2 to 4. The texting with the National Suicide Prevention Line is, like I said, maybe 3 weeks up and running. So it's still kind of in its incubator stage. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. And then our overnights, we have 2 crisis team members, and then we have 1 individual that stays about till 3 or 4 in the morning. And that's been and so that's some of these new employees. So I think our goal is to have at least 3 on the overnights, and then 7 minimum at night in the afternoon, and then during the day, like I said, is 4 or 5, less than 2-on-1. So, yeah.
And I was looking for more info on the self-driving cars.
Okay.
Book and
Yes.
et cetera.
So another thing that obviously is all heard through buzz, if you don't mind, is the Go Marty. I'm just keep one. So the Go Marty, we partnered with Go Marty. When I say partner, our involvement is for individuals that need to schedule a ride that don't have access to a smartphone where they can download the app. They can call into our call center and we can book that ride for them. Go Marty launched today, from my understanding. Yep. Yeah. Yes. And they will be with us at our booth at Community Connect tomorrow. So they are going to be the one and be all to answer all the questions. So this is just kind of their little campus that they showed. It's a 17-mile radius. They have to work with the state DOT and all that stuff. For the first 18 months of this program, it's going to be called their pilot program. There will be an actual individual inside the car. That will be their first safety to kind of get a lay of the land. This is this company's first launch in a rural community, let alone a community that deals with 4 seasons of weather and terrain. So they're 18 months trips, and if you book, it's free of charge. Again, it's to get the word out there. It's to get the more time on the road for these cars, the better program that they're going to be. Yep.
Do they have Keyser House on their map now? I know
this
it's
is-
right at the line there.
You know, I'm gonna say no, and this is the hardest thing, again, Marty's gonna be able to explain this more in detail.
Heard about this 2
But
weeks ago.
the first few meetings that I personally attended, the struggle is they are only allowed to do a certain mile radius. And how to encompass everywhere they need to go was very, very hard. Plus they had the DOT, who was really regulating where they could go and where they couldn't go. So there is some disappointments. It's a disappointment that you guys aren't on here, it's a disappointment that an individual can't go to Walmart. You know, I mean, so there are some flaws with the program.
I think as far south as it goes, it's Target is what
Yes,
you guys told me.
yes, yes. So I think from what I'm understanding, the demographics in which that they were hoping to reach, a large portion of it was for the older population, along with those that are handicapped, you know, that aren't able to drive, and, cause I can't remember the individual that started this whole thing, she is in a wheelchair herself. Myrna, yes, so that was her main goal, and I get that. So, their purpose is to kind of target to the area of demographics that kind of would need the service. Their hours of operation are going to run outside of the bus schedule too, because they don't want to infringe on the business of the bus as well. So I hope with time that they're gonna be able to broaden that parameter. But I know that their goal is to hit the hospital, some key things, because they want to be able to help individuals and citizens to get to their areas of necessity, whether it's therapy, whether it's a hospital for clinic, to a store if they need to. The other thing too, Starbucks, yes. And Myrna's biggest thing too was, you know, what if I wanna be able to go visit my friend, you know? So we're trying to get, you know, people to get to go to church, you know? So it's gonna be interesting how it all plays out. I'm excited to see how it all plays out, but I know that they've been working really hard at getting that done. So we at First Call, since they do not have an office for customers to call in, so we've agreed to help individuals schedule an appointment. If they have any complaints, if they have anything like that, they can give us a number, and then we can either handle it or get them directly connected to a Go-Ready representative. So, and again, I'm gonna say they will be next to our booth tomorrow at Community Connect, so I encourage you for better detail and giving answers to your questions, that would be the time to do it. Anything else?
Yeah, I've been working for a while, or the last few months, about health directives that are psychiatric health directives, advanced directives. And we're realizing that they're not utilized very often, and the purpose is to have a plan in place before somebody goes into a mental health crisis, right?
Right.
And so what we're realizing is not a lot of people utilize them because they're really cumbersome. And some of them I've seen are like 24 pages. They're crazy.
Yeah.
So trying to find, I've been talking to Craig over at the county Pierce, and he's trying to get with NAMI to get something more simplified. But is there anybody in your organization that's familiar with filling those out that could be a person in contact?
You know, yes, I'm gonna say this out of confidence of their knowledge of things. Cree, of course, I know has experience in that, but as we all know, Cree is a very hard woman to knock down. But I do know that our CRTs, and especially our VCRTs, have had some first-hand experience of helping with getting those done. So, I'll throw out Isla's name,
Okay.
if ever. But Sue is one of our CRTs, I know that she's had that. But it's definitely a call that if you have questions in regards to, and we could get you connected with the CRTs.
Well, we're just curious if there's somebody we can, send somebody, yes, get them, refer, get them in place so we've got them at the hospital so that we
Okay.
know, I work at Granite Tax.
Okay.
I know that
Yeah.
Elder Circle has a lady that does them.
Elder Circle is? Really?
Is that Casey, the home visit?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know
that's
she
good to
did
know.
psychiatric ones. She helps people with a lot of forms, but yeah, I refer to her all the time.
It sounds
So
like
that's
it's-
also good, because she's not always the only one.
Right.
So some of your CRT can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's good, cause I mean, just having them in place is just would help, I think, everybody all around to know what they want.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it is, I myself have wanted,
Oh, good.
it's,
Yeah.
makes things pretty cut and dry.
Good, okay, well, thank you for the resources.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be tied in with law enforcement? They come onto a scene and someone's kind of where they're not knowing and they call
So that is a collaborative that is in the place of getting, and we already do have that rapport with law enforcement, especially with the 988. Especially with the 988 now, I know Cree has been working directly with that. So if an individual, I fielded enough calls where law enforcement has been on scene and they see that this individual is in a mental health crisis. They then will, because again, we can't give services unless they agree to it. So law enforcement does their best to have a conversation with them and then reaches out with mobile crisis, and then the CRT then meets them on site.
That's the Travis law, right?
That's the Travis law, yeah. And like CRT has been working, there's all sorts of new things that CRT is doing in regards to, like, for instance, the devastating suicide of that young gentleman over the weekend. I know we had 2 CRT individuals at the school yesterday. So we're trying to, our crisis team is trying to work closely with both law enforcement and public school agencies to try to get this support and make their presence more known. Again, knowledge is power, so if we can be familiarized to the general public of what is out there, there may not be as much taboo at reaching out and getting the help we need.